Hi, Sally. I am so excited to ask you this question, especially when it comes to like your area of expertise and genius, which is leadership expert, author, speaker. So, how does reconnecting with your identity shape the way you lead and influence others?
I think this is absolutely fundamental, foundational. When I work with leaders, I use the metaphor of a hamburger, particularly when I work with middle managers because the best is in the middle. But the key ingredients of a burger start with the piece of protein, right? All great burgers have protein, even if it's a soy infused tofurkey, something or other for our vegan friends. Sorry, vegan friends. But it starts with protein. And to me, that is values. It is the foundation piece. It's what gives us our alignment. It's what holds us steady in the course of all things going crazy. It tells us who we truly are. And it also, therefore, when we actually operate in alignment with our values, it helps to indicate what our strengths are. It helps to give us that presence, which then becomes more magnetic and influential. If we allow our values to be dented and bent too often, then we can lose sight of who we truly are. We can lose sight of a belief in the purpose of the organization or the leader that might be causing this or triggering this. And so I think it's really critical that we are absolutely connected with our values day in, day out. And I think the more intentional that we can make our decisions, and that we lead with clarity rather than confusion or comparison, then that also layers on top of that ability to influence. And I think authentic leadership, it builds a deeper trust and credibility. And it's hard to follow someone who doesn't know who they are. We've all met someone who's clueless, and you're sitting there thinking, this person's so wishy-washy, or this person has to get everybody's opinion and spend days and days in anguish over a decision. And yes, sometimes big tough decisions do call for consultation and do call for research. But at what point do we need to actually, as my dad would say, pony up and start writing? When do you actually make that decision? Because people are looking to you as a leader for that clarity, and then that helps us to actually then lead with influence. And I think the other thing to this is that your people are looking to you. You are a role model, and so you don't have to know all the answers, but you've got great people around you. And when you actually engage them and invite them into those conversations and seek their expertise so that you can move things forward without wasting time, that then also shows you as a leader who lifts others. And again, that adds to your credibility. So I really love this, that it starts with your values, hands down. So let's look at the other way, Amanda. What happens when we lose sight of who we are beneath all the roles we play?
I think when we start to lose sight, we become a beautiful, busy blur. So, wife, mother, therapist, leader, speaker, friend, organizer of school lunches, emotional support system, team meetings, and that thing you almost forgot at the shops. And somewhere in between the calendar invites, the mental load, the 42,000 open tabs in your brain, you actually stop hearing your own voice. And when you stop hearing your own voice, there's a few things that actually unfold. First and foremost, we totally forget what we actually want, like what's true to us. So when you're always in service to others, which we tend to do and what society has told us we should be doing, it's easy to actually mistake their needs for your own. And over time, your desires get quieter and quieter and quieter, yet your to-do list is getting louder and louder. And so that's a little bit of a problem. Secondly, we feel disconnected from our actual core values. So the roles that come with the expectations. And when we're performing to meet those expectations, we can unintentionally abandon the values that actually anchor us to who we genuinely and truly are. We also burn out emotionally and spiritually. So when identity is defined essentially only by your output. What more can you give? Give, give, give. What do you give? What do you achieve? What role are you fulfilling today? You absolutely risk running on empty. Resentment starts to bubble up, exhaustion becomes the baseline, and joy, well, that's just missing in action. So that's something to be super mindful of. And then we start asking, is this it? Like, is this really all that I've got putting it into? Like, it's not a midlife crisis. The amount of people who come to me and say, Amanda, I think I'm actually having a midlife crisis. No, this is not a midlife crisis. This is a truth quake. This is a signal that something deeper is craving your attention. The ache to remember yourself is not selfish, it's sacred. So, what we need to remember to do or be reminded of, especially on places like retreats or, an opportunity to take those breathers, reclaim small amounts of time for self-reflection. So, journal, walk, breathe, do whatever you need to do. Stare at the ceiling. It doesn't matter, but as long as you're reclaiming those small amounts of time, that's important. Name yourself beyond your roles. So, rather than mother, speaker, da da da, try I am statements that have nothing to do with the titles. I am curious, creative, compassionate. Let joy actually be your compass. What makes you lose track of time? When you get like so enthralled with something that you just like throw yourself into it, and then someone else needs to tap you on the shoulder and be like, do you realize you've been here all night? And you're like, oh, it's those things. It's like, what could you genuinely throw yourself into and have no knowledge of time? So when we lose sight of who we are beneath all these other roles, we actually don't disappear. We just dim. We're still there. We're still functioning in all the roles, but we've just dimmed all that stuff. So the good news is that there's always light at the end of the tunnel, and it just takes some intentionality behind it. It takes an intentional pause. One very brave question, one moment of coming home to yourself. And I think that's the important bit.
And if today's conversation resonated with you and you're ready to reconnect, reset and rise in both your leadership and well-being, then the Rise and Renew Retreat is exactly where you need to be. Let's show you what it's all about.
What if I told you there's a 3-day retreat in Bali made just for women in leadership? A space where you can breathe, reflect, and realign with what truly matters. This is not simply time away. This is your turning point. You carry the weight of responsibility every single day. You're the one people turn to, the one who keeps everything moving. But behind the scenes, the stress builds, the clarity fades, and slowly, the spark that once drove you begins to dim. You deserve more than just a moment of rest. You deserve a full reset. Rise and Renew is a transformational retreat set in the heart of Ubud, Bali. It's a safe, intentional space created for women like you. Women who lead, women who give, women who are ready to reconnect with their purpose. Our Rise and Renew retreat will help you strategize with fresh clarity, discover your next chapter with confidence, learn from respected women leaders who understand your path. No corporate jargon, no pressure, just real conversations, expert-led mindset work, leadership workshops, self-care sessions, nourishing food, and a powerful circle of women who get it. You will leave with more than reclaimed calm. You will leave with a plan, with purpose, with a confident mindset, ready to lead with greater and renewed intention. This retreat is intentionally intimate for deep connection and real transformation. Spots are limited. Secure your spot now at riseandrenew.com.au.